Welcome back to another round of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes Grand Arena Championships. This is Season 8, Week 2, Round 2. And this week, I'm going against Dom. So let's see how we match up. So as you can see from the hotbot, I have the majority of the green on my side. Let's look at it closer. As far as lifetime stats go, I have about 200 more offensive wins, way more undersized wins. He doesn't go undersized very often. Way more defense. He looks like to go pretty heavy offense, and he hasn't got a whole lot of clears. So from this look, I feel like I have quite the advantage. Let's look at our rosters now. And you can see he's got about a 400,000 GP advantage over me. He has the advantage on top 80 and top 65. But when we look at Zetas, I've got 6 more. I have almost double the amount of average speed on my top 80 characters. And I have more G13s as well. Looking at our mods, I have about double the amount of 6-dot mods and quite a bit more speed. I even hold the advantage on the relic levels. Let's look at the board. He's already attacked. Let's see how he did against my defense. Down on the bottom here, he was able to one-shot my Grievous and my new Dooku squad and my Shakti Clones, so made short work of that. In the back, he did one-shot my Poggle, Sunfact, B2, and my Stormtrooper Han, Baze, and Chirrut, but he took 4 battles against this Maul, Marauder, Sith Empire Trooper squad, and 4 shots to beat my Karth team. So a lot of holds there. He depleted quite a few of his better teams, I'm sure, against those. Looking up top, he was able to one-shot my Bastila, Old Ben and Hoda, and my Asajj team, but he couldn't get through the crew team, and he took 2 attempts and couldn't beat the Talzin team as well. It looks to me like he's given up. He's thrown a lot of teams at these defense. I had put my Negotiator on defense because his fleet was a little weak. Didn't turn out that I needed it. Let's look at what he set for me on defense. A First Order team, a Karth squad, a Grievous team with a Relic 2 Grievous, and then finally a Padme squad. All these teams are fine, but I believe I had the counters to take care of them. On the bottom, he had set me a Relic Palpatine, Relic Scion with Nihilus, a Ventress with Dooku and Jango team, and then a Shakti Clones. So like always, I was going to start on the bottom to open that up, and it took me a little while to figure out what teams I wanted to go against these. I kind of vacillated back and forth between a couple options, and I finally decided that I was going to start with the Palpatine team since it had the most relics, and I decided I'd go with my CLS. Figured I'd go ahead and stun Palpatine right off the bat so he couldn't get any shock out on my squad, so that worked out well. I decided I would get the assist from Chewie to get tenacity down on Scion, and then I would work on Nihilus first. Since Scion had tenacity down, I figured I'd stun him, which worked out well, and then just melt Nihilus. Then I decided to go back to Scion to get ability blocked so he couldn't taunt, and then take out Palpatine. So this counter worked out pretty much exactly the way I was hoping. Scion did get a last attack in there and took off some protection from Luke, but all in all, 53 banners is how I wanted to start out. A nice beginning to the round. Next, I decided to go against this Asajj team. I thought it was kind of a weird choice because Asajj's leadership only applies to Night Sisters. But I took it as a way to use kind of a B team here with Palpatine and Vader and Thrawn. And I knew that my biggest hurdle would be Jango getting the damage immunity right off the bat because Asajj is a separatist leader. So I decided I'd fracture Dooku right off the bat, and then I'd just work on Asajj, and essentially I would ignore Jango. And I had a feeling that I would probably lose a character with a big hit from Jango at some point in this battle, but I kind of just took that as a given in order to take a B team and not have to expend one of my better teams here in this front zone. So I worked on Asajj first, and then Django's already gone and lost his damage immunity, fractured Dooku so he couldn't keep counterattacking me. Django ended up getting Palpatine down, which again, I kind of assumed that would happen. I didn't know that it would be Palpatine, but I assumed one of my characters would go down. And then it was just a matter of working through Django, knowing I had to kill him twice. Thought maybe the saber throw, even with no debuffs, would get him, but it didn't. But there he goes. So 51's not ideal, but it still was fine because I didn't have to waste one of my top squads against it. Next, I have the Shakti Clones, and I decided rather than gamble, I would just bring in my Padme squad. I know this is overkill for sure, but the clones can get going with Shakti, and I didn't want to bring in a lesser squad and waste a team on this squad. So I figured just let's open up the back. In the back, I'm expecting his Geos. I was expecting that maybe he put his best squad, which was his Jedi Knight Revan squad back there. So I saved counters for both those, thinking that I may have a tough time in the back. But even knowing that, I decided I could afford to use my Padme squad here. Took out Shakti, took out 5s, and then cleaned up Rex. And then I opened the back up. And it wasn't what I expected. I was expecting him, I knew he went a little harder on offense, but he put essentially just trash in the back, which left me a ton of possibilities on how I want to allocate my other teams. So now I didn't have to worry about keeping some of my better teams for that back zone, so I just used them here. Grievous, I went ahead and used my Jedi Knight Revan. Here I'm just biding my time until either Grievous or B2 comes out of stealth. And there he is, so I marked B2 to get him down. Grievous is only Relic 2 here, and B2 didn't have his Zeta. So this team wasn't that formidable, I didn't think. So here I'm just trying to play the game of keep hitting Magna Guard, try not to get Grievous down past his 100% health, and I thought maybe I could get a big hit there, and it didn't. It didn't work out for me, so Magna was going to die first anyway. In the end, it was fine. So worked on Grievous here, marked him up, tried to get as much protection I could get back in the end here, and finally just finished him off. 52 is fine against a Grievous squad. I was never in danger. I didn't even use my Savior. So next I decided to take this Padme squad. Even though this entire Padme squad is only gear 12, it still represents the best team he had left on defense. So I brought in my Darth Revan with Bastila and HK, and this is probably my most efficient 3v3 battle I've ever had. Everybody gets an attack, and Darth Revan gets 2, and there we go. Now you'll notice I pulled off Malik off of that squad, and that's because I decided I would use him solo against his Karth team. And honestly, I probably could just put it on auto, but because I've only done this once before, I figured I'd actually play it out just to make sure I'm using it as a exercise to help me learn my characters better and what they can do and what I should be doing. I'm sure I made plenty of mistakes, but for the most part, I just tried to keep shock on as many of them as I could at a time. Every time it was up, I used that third ability for that life drain so that I could build up my buffs, so that after you get 3 of those buffs, then you're on the basic, he gets healing immunity. So I just bounced around from tune to tune. I mean, ideally, I think I would have liked to take out Mission first, but she's always stealthing. and Zalbar is always taunting. But again, this was one of those situations where even though I was going 1 against 3, I was never in danger. Malik's health never went into the yellow or anything like that. So just an opportunity for me to take advantage of not needing to use my Malik with my Darth Revan and getting to clean up a otherwise G12 Zeta team kind of for free. Last up top here, we have this First Order squad. It only has crew in it and no original Kylo, so to me that made it way easier. But I still had my JTR, so why not use that? I decided after waving crew off that I would go after First Order officer first. Got the burning up to try and get some exposes. Took a couple hits there, finally got First Order officer down. Unfortunately, Fox has hit R2 hard enough that even though as the battle goes on and I try to extend it out to try and build back some of that protection, it's just too much, too little time with a 3v3 team to do that. And since I don't have to burn through both a crew and an OG Kylo, I only was able to get up one of my Illuminated Destinies, and it just wasn't enough to get all of that protection back. But you can see I'm trying. I'm switched to just doing basics for the most part and trying to keep him stunned. There was a mistake. I don't know why I didn't hit the middle button. Trying to wave down his turn meter, but the reality is it just wasn't enough time. So that's fine. I finally decided let's just kill him off and take my 53 and still be happy about it. At this point, I have already, I'm almost to the point where I've won and I have the ship still to go and Fluff in the back. So it's not looking good for Dom. Like I said earlier, he did not have a ton of good ships. He didn't even have the Negotiator to use, and so that's why I put my Negotiator on defense, figuring if he got there, he might struggle. But it left me with my home one as my only fleet to go against his Tarkin and Geos. But I wasn't worried about that, even though his Geos were pretty good. They're all Gear 12. And of course, I do not have the new Y-Wing yet. I would love to get that, but with the Galactic Chase having such a low drop rate, I don't believe that's going to happen. I did just unlock my 5-star Malevolence, and so I'm excited to get that up and going, but I didn't have enough credits to get it all the way to 85 yet. And my Hyena bomber still needs 10 more shards before I unlock that, and then it's going to take me time to build up the credits to level it up as well. So that will be an option coming up, but it hasn't happened soon. Meanwhile, in this battle, I'm just working my way through these Geos. They went down a little slower than I anticipated, but they never really were doing a whole lot of damage to me. With both Houndstooth and Biggs up there to soak up all the damage, I was never worried about them being able to break through. Although I have been surprised by Geo teams in the past, so I'm happy that this went as well as it did. And you can see, there we go, and it is over. So 64 banners. I'm always happy to get a nice victory in ships because it is sometimes my Achilles heel. Next, we've got a whole bunch of junk, but I decided that their Rey Jedi training was their best squad, and I still had my Traya team. Now, this didn't feel like a super counter to me. They're all essentially tanks. I wasn't sure who I wanted to isolate there. I decided it would be Finn. And I also realized I probably should have done that on Rey and worked on her first because she's got the wave off of the turn meter. But in the end, I decided it didn't really matter. I knew going into this battle that I should dominate So I'm just draining and increasing cooldowns and getting Hell by Hatred up and stripping away buffs, re-isolated over on Finnegan, and Nihilus got his Annihilate up. So there goes Ray. Just got Finn to work on. It's an interesting situation that I've found myself in these last little bit. When going into Division 1, I really did expect a whole lot more challenge, and I am getting matched up against players who have a significant GP advantage over me, but because they're on the bottom end of Division 1, I feel like a lot of them are just collectors or very old accounts that maybe don't really care about Grand Arena so much, and I keep getting put against opponents that don't always make what I would think of as being the most sound decisions, like putting a whole bunch of trash in the back to get annihilated. He threw up some troopers. Mine were faster, so I decided that I would mirror match it and take his down with mine. And they made quick work of this. And another 54. Which leaves me just to the this weird Jedi team with Eth Koth and Bears and Ahsoka. And I had my Geos left. I honestly didn't know if this was a quote-unquote counter for them, but I didn't really think it mattered because I didn't see any synergy on the other squad. I didn't see any characters that scared me. Ahsoka was only gear 11, so I figured if I can get her out quickly, none of the rest would really matter. And I have to say, I really love the Geos on offense. I like them on defense too, but I do really like them on offense. So, did the heal up there. I wasn't really missing much health at all anyway, but thanks to that, another 54. And then I'm really used to seeing Ewoks on defense. I'm not used to seeing Jawas on defense. So I decided the last thing I wanted to do was a whole lot of attacks because I didn't want a bunch of thermals. So I decided I'd just go solo nest and see what happened, knowing that the counters would put some of those on there, but I figured with her mechanic of getting the extra protection back that it wouldn't matter. And sure enough, you can see she is getting thermals on her every round, 4, 6, whatnot, but they're going off every round. They're never getting to the point where they're dangerous. And just like that, just like the Ewoks, Nest gets the 55. So there it is. The board is clear. I believe that's my best score ever in 3v3. So 24-76, just a tiny bit below the theoretical quote-unquote max. And Dom never came back to attack me. So that is the final score. I want to thank Dom for the match. I wish he would have set a little harder defense for me. But in any event, it was still fun, and I enjoy dominating. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next round.